Issue 196. We start out with Miles actually telling Alicia that the heroes have had plenty of time to fight Scourge, convincing Alicia to reluctantly tell him to get the glow post online so they can send the jerks home when they're done. First off, he calls the heroes in sarcastic quotation marks, implying he doesn't really believe they are heroes, which really says a lot about how cynical he is, and might justify why he doesn't like them. He doesn't really believe they are good people. He doesn't know any better. And second, Alicia calls the heroes jerks. Naturally, since they antagonize her team, so they're jerks to her, but it's not very self-aware of her. The important thing to note here is that basically Miles sides with the heroes and tells Alicia to get Sonic and Amy back when he had previously helped her doing the exact opposite, only to convince Alicia to help the heroes instead. Whose side is he on? He at least tries to cover it up with a smirk, but still. Then after going to Anti-Mobius, everyone including Miles and Alicia look completely terrified at seeing Scourge in his super form with Sonic in his grip and the other heroes unconscious in front of him. He's about to start out on getting his revenge on everyone he antagonized him recently, having not killed Sonic already by this point for some weird reason. I really have to wonder if something about his super form messed with his mind while he was having it to make him get blinded by rage or negativity in general, because he did go super full of negative emotions after all, and he's going to be especially violent and vindictive in this issue. I think one of the biggest things to support this is that the first person Scourge goes for to attack is Bunny of all people. You'd think he would go for one of the people who betrayed him first, so this implies that he's become equally violent against all of them. Another thing to support this blinded by rage, unable to think clearly stance is that he calls Tails a mutant brat, as if that's a bad thing. Maybe he just wants to let him finally know how Miles feels for once, since it's not really fair that Tails never got bullied for his mutation when Miles clearly did to turn out this cynical and messed up. But it's also possible that he's just not thinking straight because of his super form. If he had a problem with the extra tail, he wanted to become friends with Miles and spent every single day with him in the first place. Then he grabs Sally, saying, "No rotor, princess? Your team isn't at the same level of lane without him." I love that line. It's a little weird that he calls her princess outright. Maybe he's just doing it to be ironic and sarcastic. When all she can do is stammer 2 words, he snarks while throwing Sally, "Wow, how can Sonic resist a wit like that? Ha!" At least his dialogue is kind of cathartic to me sometimes. He then throws Alicia against the throne, being sarcastic, and when Boomer tries to use dizzy-making sound waves against him while Patch runs at him with a sword, clearly being genre blind since they don't know super forms are invincible, Scourge just breaks Patch's sword immune to Boomer's attack while saying, "You really want to lose that other eye, don't ya?" That's another pretty great line for a villain. But it's followed by a terrible one, as after he asks if Fiona's with him, Patch basically says, "No, it is impossible." It should have been "c'est impossible" instead, unless he's talking about a guy saying that the guy is impossible. I'd also like to point out that's never properly explained why Fiona didn't come with them. How could she possibly know that he was going to get defeated eventually here? Did she run away because she was scared of Super Scourge and didn't really want to see him like that? That she didn't really want to believe he was that evil? I mean, she had to have known he was hiding the anarchy barrel in his throne. My theory is she ran away because of what Sonic said to her about her trusting Scourge and stuff. And eventually she realized that she really, really does want to be with him. Scourge replies, "Got out when the going was good, huh? Makes her smarter than you." So he compliments her even now. Does he think she was part of the mutiny somehow? Considering Patch was trying to attack her earlier, he should know better. Unless, again, the super form is completely messing with his head. Why else would he say she got out when the getting was good when it wasn't good for Scourge as far as they knew before going into the portal? And Scourge simply sends the 2 away from him, despite threatening to take away Patch's other eye. Not to mention he doesn't do anything to hurt Miles when he's right there. This implies that he's able to hold back even now, because if he was really pure evil, he would have killed everyone here with his super speed instead of just dealing one minor blow to each of them. Maybe he's not as evil as he could be, considering that even in his super form where he's blinded by vengeance, he still doesn't kill any of them, or even take out Patch's other eye like he just said he'd do. Silver stops him, grabbing him with telekinesis because I guess he just now woke up. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened otherwise. Would Scourge have hesitated at punishing Miles? Or attacked him and then lose his super form from regret snapping him out of it? He didn't attack the others that much before him, and you'd think with his super speed, he could just run around everyone at the speed of sound and kill them all with spin dashes at worst, if he really wanted them dead like he said he did. He's not that different from Sonic at heart, if even now, he's only a little more violent and spiteful and still doesn't kill anyone. I mean, he should be attacking Sonic right now. Sonic's the one he hates the most. Is this bad writing, or just is this supposed to mean something? Scourge compliments Silver. Not bad, kid. He actually brought me to a full stop. Which is kinda sweet, he didn't have to say that. Although again, Silver's not that much younger than him. Silver shows some endearing naivety by saying, "Heh, thanks, I suppose." But then Scourge promptly pulls a Shadow the Hedgehog and frees himself of his psychokinetic grip, saying that invulnerable means nothing stops him, even though he was held still perfectly fine before this point. So just like Shadow when he overcame Black Doom paralyzing everyone with sheer force of will and started acting like he wasn't even struggling against it after that. Logically, if he's invulnerable to psychokinesis, he shouldn't have been affected by it to begin with. And then Scourge goes to attack Silver off-screen instead of Miles, who he was acting like was the target that deserved it the most. Again, he's equally violent against everyone here. There's no logic and rationale and grudge behind it. Metal Sonic then attacks Sonic, explaining that even he knows there's no point to going after Scourge, so Shadow then attacks Metal Sonic and sends it away with Chaos Control. They definitely made the Metal Sonics wimps. I have no respect for them here, and you'd think the robot equal to Sonic would be just as competent as him. I was expecting the Metal Sonics being wimps thing to be pre-Ian Flynn. Rosie's hammer breaks upon trying to attack Scourge, as if his super form made his skin and fur more like an android, or all hard and tough. That would explain the invincibility. And Scourge says, "I have had enough of you!" and throws her into the metal wall. I find that cathartic too. I don't blame him when he has to deal with a psycho like Rosie abusing him all the time. Now that he has the power to stand up to her, the closest that he's had to a childhood bully, he does so. Robin then shoots an arrow that it turns out puts a bunch of rope around Rosie that protects her with a convenient force field. Well, that came out of nowhere. It would have been fine to have her killed off. She's not really a good person anyways. Well, she's more sympathetic than Fiona when she slapped Tails. At least Rosie's insane as an excuse. But if he has force field generating arrows, why doesn't he just surround everyone with them, instead of using just one? Amy says Robin's sweet for thinking he should protect Rosie, and then immediately says, "Let's get back to the beatdown." A true action girl. It's irritating that she calls it beatdown though, when Scourge clearly has the upper hand here, and yet she's talking as if they're curb stomping him. Sonic grabs Miles by the tail to get him to tell him where some more of the Anarchy barrels are, as Miles says some forced-sounding villain dialogue calling him a fool at a time like this. And Miles explains that his team locked it all away far from here, and he says he doesn't know how Scourge got any of it. Sonic says he had some in his throne, and Miles lampshades that is unusually cunning for him, holding his tail in pain from earlier all the while. I wonder how many times people have grabbed him by the tails like that, especially while looking at him the way Sonic did. That couldn't have been easy for him. Miles, still holding his tail, asks, "What about your world? We can lure into Mobius," and he trails off as Sally smiles, saying that she's fine. Then Sonic tells him that they can't let him back to Mobius, and most of the emeralds are in the special zone, while the two that aren't are out of reach. While Miles loses hope, Sally refuses to give up, and tells everyone to rally to the center, saying that she needs heavy hitters. Silver grabs Scourge with telekinesis to hold him steady, as Scourge lampshades him trying the same thing again, and then Boomer and Bunny both hit him with projectiles to send him down. And everyone tackles him at once, with Sally telling everyone to link arms and hold him down. Sally says desperately that if they keep him down long enough, he'll run out of rings and lose his super form. Sonic doesn't have time to lampshade the fact that Super Scourge would be strong enough to get them away from him before he does exactly that. You know the situation is desperate when Sonic's the voice of reason to Sally. That hasn't really happened since really early in the comic. Scourge lashes out at Sonic, saying as if he was disappointed in him, "We could have ruled the multiverse together." But no, you decided to go the holier-than-thou route. See where that got you? After Scourge rants like a spoiled brat, saying that he'll just keep stomping on planets until he finds one that gives him the respect he thinks he deserves, and then getting really surprisingly angry at being ignored by Sonic. It really hits me that he's not talking about respect, since he got what he thought was respect from Anti-Mobius, as they bowed down to him from fear. Clearly that's not what he really wants then, because he's saying he'll destroy the planet where everyone was bowing down to him until he gets one where he's respected. Maybe what he's actually searching for is a planet where people actually do respect him, and like him even. But that makes it all the more tragic because he's going about it entirely the wrong way. If he was a hero, he'd get that. He'd get that respect. Instead, he's being a villain purely to be different from Sonic, and is sending him on a doomed goal that will never get him what he wants, because every planet will be full of people who will hate him. Sonic, in the woods while storming out so suddenly that it's as if it's by magic, thinks that he can't outrun Scourge right now, and then after remembering that this is the Anti-Mobius, he gets an idea. He taunts Scourge that Scourge needed a super form just to attack him, and Scourge, his ego bruised again, insists that he can finish him super or not. Scourge basically calls Sonic an arrogant little shit, only the last word of it is censored, and he stops being super on his own because Sonic tricked him. And his insecurity immediately has him have an oh crap moment, instead of continuing with his previous train of thought that he can beat Sonic even when he's not super. He just said he doesn't need the super form, so what's the big deal? Sonic explains to him that while there's tons of Anarchy barrels, there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds, and the super forms are the same. Sonic explains with an evil smirk that Scourge's super form may even last a little longer, but when Sonic powers down, it gives him a small boost. No, it doesn't! While when Scourge powers down, it burns him out. Huh? That was much more confusing than just saying, you stopped being super because you chose to, idiot. With a still tired Scourge trying to keep talking tough pathetically, Sonic then snaps at him, slapping him cathartically, and calls him a bully while grabbing him by the collar and glaring at him like a bully would, ironically enough. And Scourge clearly looks intimidated. Sonic explains that the reason he views him as a bully is because Scourge takes the easy, nasty way out and gets the quick reward, and Sonic says big whoop. That's not really explaining to Scourge why he shouldn't do it and why Sonic's not impressed. He basically said, you do stuff the smart way, and that's bad. I wonder if Sonic would say this even if Scourge, killed Eggman by snapping his neck. He took the easy, nasty way out and got the quick reward. That's evil, right? Then Sonic makes a generic hero speech about how he helps people to improve the world, while Scourge is just mean. And he says that the good guys always win the long run. Not really, the heroes do, but a lot of good people still get shortchanged and stuff, especially in the real world. Sonic continues to fail to explain his point of view to him by simply bragging about how he's a great runner, as if that had anything to do with anything. This doesn't do anything other than show he's arrogant just like Scourge is. Sonic's attempt at convincing him he's wrong is just pathetic here. It's sad to look at. He could have used Scourge's own words about what he wants against him by saying that if he wants respect from a planet, he has to give them a good reason to admire him for real, and that requires being a hero. Not to mention, Scourge is a thrill seeker, and being a hero is exciting too, not boring like running a conquered planet. Of course, Sonic's not exactly the most articulate speaker. Maybe if Sally was here, she could have explained it better. Or maybe not, because she'd be judgmental of him. Boomer, the next day, that's pretty ironic. Why did it take this long to get to this point? Where did they all sleep? Boomer says he doesn't see why he has to give the glow post back to Kintobor. Buns tells him to shut up and disconnect it. And Boomer proves he still has some attachment to her by not promptly punching her in the face for saying that. Miles finally points out that it was only Scourge who wanted her out, and Buns basically says she hates him for trying to get his friend back, and Miles is so used to being insulted, called creepy like this, that he just tells her to think about it. It would have been nice if this was more than just one panel so we could see if he changed expressions briefly to look sad or anything. Still, this does prove he has some sort of attachment to Buns, because otherwise he wouldn't have bothered trying to get her back. He would have just hated her for fighting against his friends and not had any continued loyalty to her. But yeah, this definitely could have been written a lot better. I don't like his response to her at all. Sonic says with some other heroes nearby that he wants to go back to Kintobor's tower and leave Anti-Mobius, which he calls messed up despite barely any development on how it's messed up to begin with. If anything, Anti-Mobius is the best zone to live in out of all of them because there's no evil Robotnik ruining it. Also, the heroes stayed on Anti-Mobius with their evil twins until the next day? Why? And if they didn't, why didn't they tell us that? Miles says that Buns can only play the hero for so long, and now that I've seen how Buns really is still evil, doing stuff like forgetting she had to be protecting Sonic and Amy from Rosie, and saying she loves the dilapidated look of the castle because it symbolizes that she can do whatever she wants, and smirking, calling the heroes do-gooders, yeah, I can't blame him for not believing that she's a hero. She really is just playing the hero. Miles says that he had memorized the schematics of the globe post conveniently off-screen, reassuring her that they'll come back to Mobius and lash out at it for their collective embarrassment as Scourge's terrified lackeys. Except they won't, because Sega or some other higher-up out there put the kibosh on the evil twins showing up ever again, which means that this is the last time we'll ever see these guys, and Scourge will only come back for one little arc. What a waste of perfectly good concepts. Alicia says that they've got to repair the walls, as well as steal some supplies. At first, I'm kind of surprised she'd repair the walls while leaving the castle with a depressed, falling apart look. It's perfectly fine. What causes her to say that some damage is fine, but other damage isn't? It makes sense that they steal supplies because they're the evil twins and their lives are so boring without a villain to fight that they need some kind of excitement to do as a gang. Plus, it saves her money. Miles says when he doesn't have to, that now they're gonna put Alicia back on the throne. That's nice of him. And Alicia tells him that she's just the figurehead, and the 8-year-old behind her is the real leader around here. That'll go over well. He smirks here because it's the ultimate karma against the previous king. But come on, I don't think he'd enjoy the paperwork of running a country either, especially with his age and inexperience. He'd have no idea what he was doing. He probably panicked the minute he got a whole mountain worth of paperwork. Then at Kintobor's tower, Sonic at his welcome mat asks Silver he wants to start another fight. Silver says thanks to Robin that he wants to do some more research first, and when he finds out who the traitor is, he'll be back to protect his team. Why the hell doesn't he just travel through time to the exact point when the betraying's supposed to occur? Is his time traveling so inaccurate that he can't just get to that point to find out who did it? He's able to go back to the future here, somehow. At least in Sonic 06, they bothered to explain Silver's time travel as Mephiles doing it for him. Any other time Silver time travels is not explained at all. If he has the ability to time travel, there's no reason he should time travel at such a useless to him point in time. He should just find out who did it by time traveling ahead, and then immediately solve the problem. What a fucking stupid plot point. They clearly didn't think this through. Kintobor tells Sonic that Scourge is still bound, and actually hasn't stirred since he was brought to Kintobor last night. Sonic picks up Scourge, who's still knocked out in his shackles, and Sonic says that before he goes to get some answers to something, he's holding his evil twin off to the parallel zone. Why doesn't he just say the no zone? I was confused at first because that sounds like parallel universe, since the zone is a universe. So is he going to the no zone by using the globe posts? I guess so. I was really surprised that it had to be Sonic who would bring Scourge to the no zone. I always thought for sure the zone cops would show up right when Scourge was powered down and shackled. But instead, these guys are so fucking competent at their jobs that someone who doesn't even work with them has to manually bring Scourge to them himself. I could understand them not showing up until he was incapacitated like this, but they haven't even sent Sonic here after that. I know there's tons of cameras on tons of zones to focus on at once, but you'd think the Prime Zone would be the one focused on the most, meaning that the zone cops should know what's going on in it. This issue is by Ian Flynn, and it had a lot of questions to say the least. Scourge goes super, and despite immediately going to take his revenge against his enemies, so absorbed in negative emotions that he hurts Bunny first, and insults Tails in an uncharacteristic way, he still goes easy on all of them. He only hits some of them with some minor blows, despite threatening to make Patch go blind, which he could easily do and had no reason to not do right now.
Killing Patch and Rosie too would have been a great villain moment for him, and you know those two would have been the least sympathetic out of all of them.
He also doesn't proceed to go back to trying to give Miles even the slightest bit of punishment, instead getting totally distracted from that because Silver saved him. I guess that proves my theory that either one, his negative super forms make him equally spiteful against everyone rather than being especially mad at the one who rallied his friends to betray him, or two, Miles is someone he has a soft side for, so he doesn't hurt him when he easily could. It really says a lot about how even at his most evil, Sonic's counterpart is still not evil enough to use his full strength and violence against his enemies. He could have killed all of them by spin dashing around with the speed of sound while invincible by now. He could have at the very least beat them all up. Instead, he barely attacks any of them at all, giving them at least a bit of a fighting chance at a hopeless-looking fight. This isn't really a problem. I love the idea of him having the good in him to keep holding back even now, but because this isn't pointed out at all, it strikes me as unintentional, which doesn't feel like good writing for a villain we're supposed to find menacing. Like, oh no, he went super, and now he's going to be written to act like a complete idiot with that form, when he could very easily win, because otherwise that'd be too easy. It's like, if they're gonna make it that sloppy, then don't make it go super at all. Also, I expected Sonic to power Scourge down by finding an Anarchy barrel or two of his own, and counteracting super form by neutralizing it. Instead, Scourge powers down intentionally because in a check of stun, his inferiority complex is triggered again by Sonic, and he's easily manipulated into doing it himself to prove a point, only to be exhausted after doing so. This is more interesting than I expected.
The problem is that it was never even implied beforehand that when Sonic powers down from his super form, he still feels great and gets a small boost. So they defeated Scourge by introducing a concept to the lore that never existed before.
I thought Sonic would power him down by getting some Anarchy barrels because Miles would tell him where to go for them, being useful, but that didn't happen at all. Miles was just completely useless. And at the end, despite shackling Scourge, making him unconscious until the next day, pretty long time for the heroes to stay in Anti-Mobius, by the way, for some reason Sonic is the one hauling Scourge off to the no zone, when Sonic should have shown up to do it several hours ago. These guys are so incompetent it angers me. You'd think with their surveillance cameras everywhere they'd have a system where they'd always know the minute a zone comp occurred, and they'd be right on it. It'd be fine if they explained that the zone cops were sent after the evil twins were coming to Mobius, and then were defeated. That would explain why the zone cops are staying away from Scourge. The zone cops could just warp to Scourge's bed when he's asleep in the middle of the night and shackle him. There's absolutely no excuse for them not doing anything to help, especially in a universe where sleeping gas exists. And Miles being made the leader as a thank you for organizing the betrayal against Scourge leads to absolutely nothing, because he never shows up again. And they say Penders had dropped plot threads. So this, as well as the evil twins in general, were a wasted concept. They had a chance to develop their characterizations, and more importantly explain why they became evil, but they couldn't even spare a single line for each of them. Instead, Scourge got some vague explanation about what a bad dad he had, while everyone else got just as little effort as in the Penders days. Also, Sonic utterly fails to explain why Scourge should be a hero, making a generic, cliched hero speech, and wondering why he doesn't get it, when he could have turned his previous goal for respect right around on him. Maybe Sally could have done that better. He's not really the people person. Point is, I like this issue enough, I guess. Super Scourge's lines against characters like Rosie and Rotor were even cathartic and enjoyable at times, seeing him be a badass.
Despite the writing issues, I did really enjoy this issue. I mean, it was cathartic sometimes, the way Scourge was attacking Rosie and stuff. And there were a lot of times when I smiled or laughed.
But it ended the Evil Twins arc with missed opportunities, and there were some things that annoyed me, leaving me disappointed in the end, especially nobody pointing out how Super Scourge was still holding back.